It was just after sunrise when we found these two hyenas in the open grassland. There were some tracks on the ground that sort of indicated that they had dragged something. They had obviously found something and scavenged their way to a meal. And just the body language of the hyenas made me think that there was definitely something still lurking fairly close by. After scratching around for a while, we found the female cheetah just on the move, heading away from where the hyenas were. She'd clearly just eaten. She was fairly relaxed, heading across the open floodplain, and while she did that, a bunch of birds really didn't like her presence. Surprisingly, in amongst that lot were spurwing geese, incredibly big geese, one of the biggest Dachshund geese that we have in this area. We're doing sort of circuits, having a good look at her. Really quite bizarre. These geese, these spurwing geese, actually came and landed right opposite her in a dead tree. They were very concerned. I've never seen so much interest showed in cheetah before by spurwing geese. Just really quite an interesting behavior. We went back to where the hyenas were. There was a lot of disturbance in the vegetation around the water, and there was a impala ram that the hyenas had obviously stolen from this female cheetah and just stashed in the water. Hyenas really like to put carcasses in the water. It's a cool place to feed. More specifically, I think it hides the scent of a carcass. The hyena backed off, and that gave the opportunity to some yellow-billed kites to come in and pick up a little bit of the remains that were scattered around that area from the hyena. 4 or 5 bounced in, competing for the scraps, and that's where we left them.
The jackals came in first, and they were quite daring. They just wanted to see how far they could push the line and see to what degree they could come in. Just behind them, the vultures were shuffling in. At one stage, there was a jackal, and he was just meters from the line. The line was chewing on the flesh, and he couldn't have been more than 2 meters away, just watching and waiting. But the lion, he wasn't going to give up that easily. And when the crowds of scavengers moved in, and they just got too close, he turned and chased them away. You could see the lion was tiring and the scavengers were getting to him. And he had to make a decision and try and get the carcass into the shade and try and protect it. And he needed to do this quickly. Unfortunately, the closest shade was the shadow of our vehicle. And he looked at us, and we knew this is where he was heading. This wasn't all too comfortable for us, and we decided to move off quickly.
The beaches are quiet and abandoned mongoose scuttle in and out of the dune system looking for any tasty morsels that might have been left on the beach during the day. And who would have thought, but right out of the starting blocks we came across 2 baby loggerhead hatchlings. These tiny creatures are perhaps only 2 inches long at most. Now, nature can be beautiful and cruel at the same time, and unfortunately these weren't 2 of the healthiest small hatchlings I have ever seen. Both were slightly deformed and were really struggling to make their way down to the water's edge. Obviously they're not designed for life on the beach as such. Their limbs have been adapted for a life in the ocean. So this task, as difficult as it already was, has been made all the more difficult by its disability. Here you can see what must be a 30-meter beach. It was going to take this hatchling all of 30-40 minutes to get down to the water's edge. This was right at dusk, and luckily for these hatchlings there weren't any predators immediately around. There were no yellowbill kites in the sky, no gulls, and very few ghost crabs still at this point in the evening. One really has to hold oneself back, not to assist the animals in any way or just to scoop it up and take it down to the ocean. It must do this on its own and is part of the cruel cycle that is life. And with that, we have nearly a full moon. Spring tides are on their way. And this is the guiding light. The reflection of the moon on the ocean is what actually draws the turtle in the right direction. But also, with the coming of the night, the ghost crabs and other predators start to emerge. Now, this is a very rare and beautiful snake. This is a Mozambique shovel snout. This particular individual is perhaps only about 10 or 12 centimeters long. Now, this snake's preferred diet is small reptile eggs such as gecko or lizard eggs. Eventually, a good 45 minutes after these hatchlings had departed the nest at the top of the dune system, they reached the wet sand down by the water's edge.